Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel, and welcome to Cattle and Crops, the farming experience. Well, I honestly did not think that the day would ever come that I would even bother putting cattle and crops on my channel in any form whatsoever, whether it be early access or even the full-blown release of the game, whenever that happens to be, and we still don't know when that's going to be. As I'm recording this episode, it is on New Year's Eve 2017, the morning of New Year's Eve 2017. And since I've been off from work this week, I worked on Friday before Christmas, and then I have not been back in the office again. It'll be almost 10 days, I guess, before I go back to the office on the 2nd of January. Anyway, in this span of time, I have done a little bit of research. I have reinstalled Cattle and Crops, because you might remember if you watch my Farm Sim 17 episodes, I often talk about Cattle and Crops. I've often talked about the disappointment that I had with the tech preview that came out early in the summertime time frame of 2017, and how disappointed I was with that tech demo. I installed it with so much expectation, and I knew that it was going to be scaled down. I knew that there was only going to be certain things that we could do. I knew that there was only going to be a limited amount of equipment. I was okay with all of that. My biggest disappointment came down to the fact that I could not get my controllers configured, my G27 configured to play the game, and so that disappointment just took over my feelings and everything, and so many other problems with the game as well. And of course, most of the fellow YouTube content creators that I sort of follow and that I'm friends with and have conversations with on a fairly regular basis have all pretty much agreed that the tech demo release that came out again very early summer of 2017 was just really not ready for prime time. But of course, it was such a delay. It was such delayed. And of course, if you are familiar with your Cattle and Crops history, or at least the history as it was written back in, say, 2016 time frame, like a year ago, what we were thinking was going to happen was the tech demo was going to come out in the spring, around March, April of 2017. That didn't happen. And then, of course, by now, we would all be enjoying the full-blown release of Cattle and Crops in all of its glory, and all of its expected, anticipated glory. And of course, that has not happened. What they did do was they have been slowly, and I will emphasize the word slowly, making improvements. And I've got to say, from the very first look that I gave this game back in the very early summer when it first came out, and I downloaded it as soon as I had the opportunity to, and disappointment began mounting almost within minutes afterwards. From that point to this point, they have put together a pretty good package, much more decent package for an early release type product. This is what they should have been able to deliver last spring, in my opinion. So anyway, I'm going to throw some of these videos out here. The format's going to be kind of me trying to figure things out and sort of leveraging my almost 1,200 subscribers or so on my channel. Maybe a few of you also have Cattle and Crops, and maybe a few of you have also spent some time and have kind of reached maybe a further point than I have been successful at getting things set up. Still a lot more questions than I possibly have answers for, but I suppose by one way of me putting a video or two of cattle and crops out on a regular basis will kind of cause me to go out and sit in the forums a little bit more, ask some questions, research, read, etc., and hopefully sort of a combined effort. If we take it like that, maybe we can all come up with a pretty good explanation as to what's going on and what we need to do. So this is basically the opening screen. This is my demo character. I am going through the missions on another profile, and then basically I'm going to bring the missions to you using this profile as kind of we go along. But I wanted to stop at this screen here and just kind of go over some things. So profiles, you can create and manage your profiles. This is, you know, I guess my career profile, maybe we can call it that. We'll see how that goes. And then this is again sort of my demo, my test profile that I'm going to be recording these different mission videos on and bringing them to you on that profile. Mods, to my knowledge, there are no mods available yet for the game, which is probably a good thing considering the state that the game is in. It's probably nowhere near any particular position to be interjecting something that's going to change the behavior of the game, but at least they have this built in, and it's good to see that that is something that's front and center. Settings, graphics, gameplay, sound, and controls. This is pretty, I've got to say it's pretty intuitive. There are things that I'll just turn the volume down now just in case that becomes a bit overwhelming on the channel. There are some things that I am still very much confused about, and I won't lie to you. Again, sort of the whole point of me doing this is to kind of help and also seek help, I suppose. If I'm able to put out there some of the problems that I'm having, some of you guys may have some ideas for how I can get around some of these issues. And then of course the controller section, which is much more robust than it was before when it first rolled out. The only issue that I kind of see with this is that it's detected controllers, which I don't have plugged into my computer at this particular point in time. A lot of these are my flight sim stuff, and so that's kind of weird how it's detected these. I guess these are recorded in the registry, and so it's going ahead and pulling these in. I wish that there was an option to basically ignore the access instead of have a column for configure the access, but also one to ignore the access, because I will say that at this particular point in time, I do have these unplugged, but there will come a time where I like to leave everything plugged in. I've got plenty of USB support for all of my devices, and it's kind of a problem for me, because if I leave these unplugged, sometimes settings change and stuff like that, and so I have a bear of a time getting things reconfigured on Flight Sim. And as you can tell, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got about 7 or 8 different controllers for Flight Sim alone. And so as you can tell, if I want to sit down and fly, if I've got to reconfigure everything, is quite interesting. Now you will notice that well, let me go back up here, because let me talk about the Logitech G27 wheel here. So again, my suggestion would be, if anybody's watching from Cattle and Crops, is give us a button to basically ignore an item that we don't have any intention of using for cattle and crops, with just a tick box. Ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. I think that would help those of us out that have enjoy multiple games and enjoy or like to leave our stuff connected. Okay, so that's one idea. So let me just show you the configure thing here. So Logitech G27 racing wheel USB configure access. Okay, so this is really, and I've got to thank Icelandic Farmer for this tip, because I was about to pull my hair out, and I just went and got a haircut the other day, and I don't have much on my head as it is. Of course, I will give you some advice. Never go get your hair cut on a day where the daytime high is only about 20 degrees, because It was quite cold when I walked out of the barber shop, and I wish I had a hat with me. So anyway, I was about to pull my hair out trying to figure this stuff out. You can tell as I press my accelerator pedal, I'm getting the red meter here and everything, and I am used to calibrating controls. Obviously, longtime flight simmer, there's a lot to calibrate, a lot to have to do, and so most games the calibration process is pretty straightforward. So let's just look at the calibration for the accelerator pedal. If we click this, it says please move the configured axis to its minimum maximum positions, then click next. Well, in my way of thinking about things, this is supposed to, as you're moving the accelerator pedal in and out or down and up, it's adjusting. It should be adjusting the calibration. So I've always, done this and then basically minimum to maximum positions. So I do this a few times and then hit next. Wrong. That's not the way you configure your axis items here in cattle and crops. You want to basically press the accelerator all the way down, hold the accelerator all the way down, click next, and then release the accelerator to its default center or rest position, and then click done. That's how it's done. Trying to do it any other way is going to just simply cause you some heartache. Now, I'm still experimenting with dead zones. I've had to turn my dead zone down for my steering wheel all the way to 0, simply because if I had the dead zone set up anywhere else other than 0, essentially it will the tractor doesn't want to turn very easily. So that is set that way. I'm going to click cancel because I've already got everything configured. One thing that I did have to do down here, another thing that was causing me to pull my hair out, and basically I could look in the mirror and I could watch it turn gray, even more gray than it already is, was the movement, getting these things configured. As you can tell, forward is brake, backward is accelerator. Now, why it is behaving this way for me, I have no idea. But if I have forward set for my accelerator, which would be the logical thing to do, right? Gas means go, forward, then it goes backwards. So I've had to reverse these. So I've had to put the brake on forward and the accelerator on backwards to get this thing to work correctly with my game. Because otherwise, if I press the brake pedal, I'm going forward. If I press the accelerator pedal, I'm going backwards. Your wheel axis is for turning, obviously. Some of these other things I have experimented with, but I don't have set up just yet. Again, I'm kind of just going through the missions right now, and that's kind of what we're going to do in the course of these videos. I think this video today is just going to be me kind of, obviously setting the stage as to what my expectations are here, and then basically seeking your advice and your help. And if you have questions, if there's something that we can sort of collaborate on together, let's do that. Let's make the experience better for all involved. The other issue that I seem to have is that, while this is kind of intuitive and everything, there's some additional steps that I think that they need to put in here. Like, for example, I can't, even though, let's see, vehicle. So even though the vehicle, I have it set here for toggle drive forward backwards, I've set this up with a button, and I still don't, this still does not work right for me. So my problem is when I press my brake pedal, I want my tractor to stop, and I want it to stay stopped. I don't want it to back up. And so I thought that in Farm Sim, both 15 and 17, I've always used my G27 shifter for my shuttle control, forward and reverse. So basically, it's like in third gear, probably third gear and fourth gear is forward and backwards. So I just move my shifter handle forward, and my tractor goes forward, or my truck or whatever I'm in, and then I move it backwards, and my tractor goes backwards. It's kind of like the shuttle control. If I've played around with this, and again, I can't get it to work correctly, so maybe if you could post some screenshots and post them over on my Discord server, that will, again, that will help me, and of course, I will share this knowledge out with the masses so that everybody kind of knows of this. But regardless of what I do, if I assign a button on my wheel or on my shifter, it still basically, it will allow me to toggle the drive forward or drive backwards. But let's say, for example, I'm driving forward and I toggle it to go backwards, the tractor will go backwards, but then when I press the brake pedal, it still wants to go backwards. I want the brake pedal to be stop. I want brake to be like all stop, stop, don't inch, don't go anywhere. So we'll see if we can figure that out together. Maybe that's just going to be a mod. And I'm pretty sure with FarmSim, I can't remember FarmSim 17 if by default. I don't know. I think they have a drive forward and they have a drive backwards. So I think that's what Cattle and Crops needs to get to, is they need an entry for toggle drive forward so that we can assign a button specific to that, and then an entry for toggle drive backwards so that we can assign a button for that. So simply, that would be cool. So those are the controls. Sound, radio, I'm not really messing with because I don't like to have radio going in my videos. I think it's a distraction, at least for me. Graphics, I've kind of left this all set for defaults for right now. But I'm not having any problems with anything with these particular settings. So really my main area where I am going to be taking the greatest look and everything is going to be within the controller settings. Okay, so I'm going to click cancel here. I'm going to slide over my Logitech profiler because for games like FarmSim 17 and 15, and it appears Cattle and Crops, you still have to use the Logitech profiler to set up certain things. And if I don't do this, things do not work very well. So for example, I've got, if I look at my specific game setting profile for Cattle and Crops, use special force feedback settings, I've got these all set fairly low, but it doesn't matter what I do here. I can turn these on or I can turn these off, and I have absolutely no change within the game itself. However, oftentimes if I don't launch the game through this launcher here, or if I don't come in and basically go to specific game settings and just click OK, then I don't have all of my controls. I can't either, the accelerator or the brake doesn't work, or the steering doesn't work. The other thing with steering is, it seems to me that regardless of what I do, I've tried making changes here in this profile. Again, I've turned these down, I've turned these up, I've unchecked these. Regardless of what I do, my tension on my wheel is tight, regardless of what I do. Also, regardless of what I do here in settings and controls, none of these things, basically there is no force feedback settings within that I have found within the game itself. So again, somewhat lacking, but hopefully we'll get there sooner or later. Now, some folks may be thinking to yourself, Jerry, why are you so critical of these game developers regarding controller programming and controller setup? Well, to be quite honest with you, and I'm going to be quite blunt in this, is that I am of the belief that if you're going to create a game that is based on simulating something that is of real life, and especially if it has to do with any amount of driving, so if you're driving tractors, you're driving a truck, you're driving whatever, you need to identify, you need to accept and acknowledge the fact as a developer that you're going to have people like me that want to play these games with external hardware, with controllers, with G27, G29, G whatever the future is. And they're going to want to have the ability to do that. Assuming that folks are only going to be interested in keyboard and mouse steering and driving is ludicrous, in my opinion. What we have seen over on Farmers Dynasty in the discussion groups on Steam, a lot of folks are saying, you put in controller support. You basically show me that you're serious about being able to interface with the Logitech G whatever, or the Cytec whatever, or this or that, then I will give you my money today. But as you're still on the fence and you haven't implemented this, then I'm gonna hold my money out, because I'm not interested in playing the game without controller support. And that's my feelings right there. I've been playing Farmers Dynasty, Farmers Dynasty a little bit with my Logitech Xbox type controller, but it's just not fun. It's not. That's what I enjoy about ETS2, ATS. FarmSim 17, is I enjoy the immersion that the controllers provide to me, and I want to see those in early access. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that cattle and crops need to work on that is above and beyond controller support, but they need to do that as well. And in my opinion, at this particular point of where they are in their development cycle, they should have nailed down the controller stuff at this point in time. This should be 100%. This should be 100% to go. I should be able to plug in my Logitech G27, which is arguably perhaps the most popular wheel and pedal shifter combination product on the face of this planet, and not have to do a darn thing other than plug it in and start the game, minus maybe a few little tweaks that I want to do, like, for example, adjusting the tension on the wheel, etc. I can't do that. There's nothing that I can do to make it do that. Now, one piece of advice that I've been given from the Cattle and Crops forums is to disconnect the power from the wheel. Basically, the power, your power brick that goes to your wall, the only thing that is required for is for the force feedback motor in the wheel itself. So you can unplug that if you want to, and basically the force feedback will automatically turn off, and everything will be fine, with the exception of, you don't have the centering and stuff like that. So I know that there's people that enjoy playing with a tighter wheel, because it does provide the immersion of driving an older piece of equipment, perhaps without power steering or power assisted steering, etc. And I'm old enough. My first truck that I had, that my father and I restored, was a 1964 Chevy pickup. It did not have power steering, and you're trying to turn it in a standing position. It's tough. It would put some muscles on your arms for sure. I've driven trucks that didn't have power steering. I've driven cars. I've driven tractors, but the majority of this equipment that is being we have available in Cattle and Crops, as well as a lot of the stuff that we have in FarmSim, that all that stuff has power assisted steering at a minimum. And so again, the force feedback is an issue. Now, it's funny, because some folks with G27 don't have a problem with it. From what I understand, Mike Reefy 1952, he's got his adjusted just fine. Again, in looking at the tools that are available to me and setting things up, I can turn these on, I can turn these off, and it does not matter. It just simply does not matter. The only thing that I can do with any level of success is disconnect the power from my Logitech G27 to get the tension on the wheel to go away. So if you guys know something that's different, please let me know. Post in the comments, or head over to Discord, and let's get in a chat conversation together, and let's discuss this. So anyway, I think that that's going to pretty much do it for episode 1, or maybe episode 0. Maybe I'll call this episode 0 just an introduction, going over the controls, the profiles, and stuff that's available to us. Again, what I'm going to do is, over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'm going to go through these missions that are available. So the very first one is going to be a liquid slurry spraying mission, and then there's a cultivation mission, and then there's something, I don't forget what the third one is. But I'm going to go through those, and I'm going to discuss, things that I like, things that I maybe don't like. If I have questions, I'm going to put those questions out there in the form of me asking the question and showing there in the video what the problem is, and sort of seeking not only your help, my subscribers, but then anyone else that happens to come along. And then maybe over time we help each other and we answer some of these questions, and it's a much better experience for everybody involved. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. It really wasn't much of an episode, and my apologies for that, but I do like to try to keep my videos down to around 30 minutes, and I don't think that we would have time to get the first mission done. It's a pretty lengthy mission, about 30 minutes or so, I think, to complete that, and we wouldn't have time to get that done. And so anyway, if you have some insight into some of the things that I've talked about, please again leave a comment down below the video, or also head over to my Discord channel. The link for my Discord channel will be down below the video. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I appreciate your help. If you have any feedback for me, please let me know. If there's anything that you've seen within my settings that could be causing the problem, let me know. Or if there's something that I have overmissed or overlooked, I should say, let me know that as well. And any tips on Logitech Profiler setup, again, let me know. But pretty much everything I know about the Logitech Profiler is, you normally, even in FarmSim 17, if I adjust these settings, it applies those settings into the game. And so, again, I don't really know what's going on and why it's not working, but it's not for me. And but I do have it kind of capable of working and doing kind of enough for me to get into the game and have a little bit of fun and experience what Cattle and Crops has become over the year since I almost last saw it. Well, it's not been quite a year, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. So thank you all again so much for watching. Take good care of yourselves and each other. We'll come back for another episode here of Cattle and Crops, the farming experience, as we do the missions. And thank you for watching again, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.